Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the mindfuck of all mindfucks. We are now in November 2025, which typically, if we go by the 4-year cycle, we would be just about peaking anytime between now and the next like 4 to 8 weeks. We're going to talk about our current viewpoint. We're going to just talk about the overall market, kind of what we're doing. Do we think it's over? Do we think it's done? How much longer do we have? Do we still think this cycle can peak before the end of this year? We're going to talk about it. We're going to be all over the place. We're going to look at different cryptos. We're going to look at different trends and kind of how we're playing the market, right? So there's a lot going on, a lot of things to consider here. Let's talk about it. If that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. And holy moly, it's been one hell of a start to November. So now today's officially Monday, November 3rd. Currently, we did wake up to a nice, pretty significant dip. Kind of just back to what it was a few weeks ago. In reality, things are still kind of holding up. Let's look at some of the key metrics we're looking at. Number one is BTC's price. It's still holding above 100K. For me, mentally, that's a really big deal. I think if it were to go sub 100, which, again, it's not too far away, we could potentially see a big bleed of a lot of the major alts. And currently, that's what's kind of holding everything together right now is that, yes, things are dipping. Yes, alts are dipping. But they're still at a pretty significant place, right? So currently, even with this dip, BTC dominance is right at 60%. It literally hit it right on the dot. And this is the key thing, is the other big alts need to kind of hold at least somewhere around these levels, right? A lot of them, realistically, these past like 5-6 months have gone up significantly, and they're still kind of within those range, right? So ETH is at 3,600, BNB is right under 1,000, Sol's at 168, XRP at 236, right? So realistically, what's holding the altcoin market together is these larger guys. But if they do have a significant retrace, and I'm talking more than just, these little 10% wicks, something more significant where like ETH is not only under 3K, but it's under like 2,500, then there's definitely cause for concern. Okay, so we are going to have to wait and see kind of how these things hold up over the coming hours, over the coming days. But currently, as we look at things, overall crypto market cap's about 3.5, so it's about 10% from where it's been averaging, which again we've been following. It's that like 3.79, 3.8 range, going all the way as high as like 4.3, and then going down to this range, but kind of still in line, right? Current fear and greed is at 36. And that's the bulk of the things we are looking at. So again, what we're referencing with the alts is that yes, they have gone down a good chunk. Sol arguably has gone down a good amount from what it's done previously. But just keep in mind, back in April, it did hit sub $100. Okay, so overall, it's still holding up well. Kind of the same story with BNB. Like, yes, it's under 1,000. Yes, it was at like over 1,300 not too long ago. But again, it's still significantly up where it was, let's say, late summer, right? Where like end of July or end of June, it was in the 650 range. Okay, so it still is up significantly. Same thing with ETH, right? It's at $3,600. Again, it wasn't too far from all-time high not too long ago, but just a reminder, back in April, it was under like 1,500 bucks. Okay, so it still is up significantly. So the problem is if we do go back down to these levels, let's say it does go below this $2,500 range, that's when there's definitely going to be cause for concern. Okay, so this is a point where you have to be kind of forward-looking. You really have to come up with your game plan and follow through with it. I get it. There's a lot of people who think this bull market is over. We already peaked. Then you should be acting accordingly if you did. You should be selling off. You should be following your game plan, doing what you do. I'm personally not in that camp. For me, there's still a lot of bullish things kind of happening, even here in the near term, these next few months. We'll talk about that here towards the end. We're going to focus more specifically on kind of the plays, kind of trends, kind of coins I'm looking at specifically, and not even just looking, it's just looking at these things, right? Currently, it really depends on your viewpoint. Again, this is either a point to really DCA somewhat aggressively or potentially wait. Again, I'm still in the camp that there's still potential that we can go under 100K for BTC. For me, that's still not off the table, and if that does happen, we can definitely see ETH dropping big, a lot of these major alts dropping big, and that could have even more cascading effects after that, right? So that to me would be more significant. So these kind of levels are somewhat important just because, again, we need these things to hold up, okay? So again, it's up to you and your perspective, how you see things. Is this a time to DCA? Is this a time to add on? In my opinion, for me at least, it is. Okay, I get it. It's scary right now, but that's the point. These are the times when it's time to buy. Again, a coin I reference a lot is Solana back at during the freaking this whole downtime. Okay, especially when it initially happened and like it was a very scary, hectic time where it felt like it could go down to zero, right? But at the end of the day, you look at what's going on, you look at the fundamentals, you look at what the project's doing. Does it have that room for continuation? Did anything fundamentally change with that coin? Was there some kind of huge exploit? Was there some big event that happened? In many of these cases, no, right? Right now, it's currently market sentiment, and right now, it's extremely all over the place, okay? And even with myself, right? So again, for you guys who follow like the portfolio update videos, I'm very big on the 4-year cycles, and I'm still not fully there that it's not going to happen or that the cycles are broken, right? As we've mentioned though, these past 6 months, we are fully open to the idea of it being an extended cycle, going beyond, etc., etc. And that's still in play, right? Realistically though, taking the bias out and looking at the data, for me, the percentage of it being an extended cycle or going beyond the end of this year has gone up pretty significantly. Okay, just because again, as you look at the metrics, look at the numbers, for us to potentially peak here in these next like 4 to 6 weeks, we would have to have already started that upward trajectory, right? So is this the last wick down before we go? Potentially, right? So that's why we're following these metrics and kind of where we go, especially here in these next few weeks. Okay, if we come like Thanksgiving time and we're still like at these price points or lower, then definitely that trajectory is changing, right? So it's kind of hard either way because for me, realistically, looking at everything, looking at the broader market, it is more beneficial if it is an extended cycle just because it gives more leeway for liquidity to flow in. There are a lot of other potential things that are going to happen potentially at the end of this year that can lead to greater price action potentially. Okay, but a lot of it has to do with the broader market. And this is to me is kind of where the risk factor is do you think the AI bubble, the stock market, these gold prices will hold up well into 2026? Or do you think they're extremely top heavy and due for somewhat of a correction? I'm kind of in that camp, right? So for me, realistically, it's going to be extremely dependent on how those things hold up, right? So for us to go, if we do theoretically do this extended cycle thing, we definitely need the AI bubble to continue. We definitely need like Nvidia, like all those things to continue up. If anything does happen there, we do go into recession, that will kind of kill that whole theory, right? So this is where it gets risky. This is where it gets hard. This is why I'm not either way fully committed. Like, okay, it's definitely going to be before in a year or after a year. We're going to have to go on a case by case basis. Okay, so looking at different things, for me personally, again, my viewpoint is pretty clear though. Again, whether or not it peaks at the end of this year or it goes into Q1, Q2 next year, to me, there are still deals to be made here. To me, I think a lot of these alts will continue up. I don't think it's over yet. Again, that's just my viewpoint. So for me, I am looking for DCA opportunities. I'm looking for buy opportunities. And we're going from there, right? Because again, as we look at a lot of these coins, even Solana, arguably at this price point, is, even for me, again, I've been very against DCAing. It's not a bad price point here, right? Like for me, for example, target price, $400 to $500 sometime during the peak, when we peak, if we peak. So for me, there's potentially a 2.5 to 3x from here, right? Which is much more appealing than when it was at like 230, 240 not too long ago, or 250, in November 2024. Okay, at that point, the viability of a 2x isn't too appealing. Even a 3x, depending on your viewpoint, isn't too great. BNB is still holding up well. Is this a significant dip? No, right? So like for me, that would be a no-go. I have zero interest in ETH, especially after today's exploit with Balancer, which is going to lose a lot of confidence with institutional interest in DeFi. Again, I've been very against ETH, but we are bullish on it because, again, this is one of the big players that we do need to do well if we are going to have a potential, not necessarily altcoin season. I don't even want to say altcoin season because this is something that we've also been saying these past like 6 months. Like, I don't think it's going to be typical where everything pumps at the same time. As we've been noting these past 2 years that we've following these trends, is that it's different trends, different narratives that are going to kind of pump along the way. Okay, and it's something we've been seeing clearly these past 2 years where different categories are having their own bull market. For example, right now, if you haven't noticed, last month, past 2 months was BNB. Currently, right now, we're probably nearing the end of this privacy pump. Okay, so it's different narratives. It's going to be whatever the flavor of the week is. And that's potentially how it's going to go. Okay, so overall, as BTC does go up, the alts do go up. I think everything else will kind of go up with it, but maybe not to a crazy extent. To me, the most likely thing that's going to happen is that whatever niche that's in and it has a mega pump, that probably is going to be a bigger pump than what the overall broader pump from everything else going up is going to be. Okay, so this is why we're focused on categories. We're looking at trends. We're looking at what's holding up and what's not holding up. We're kind of going through it because there are a lot of even major alts right now that are pretty arguably undervalued, or they're down significantly from what they were, especially if you were into them, right? So this isn't one necessarily I'm into, but Sui is a popular one. Again, not too long ago, it's gone up and down pretty aggressively. This one that is pretty volatile, but has gone up to $4 or $5. It's currently down to $2. Okay, so people who are looking for like entry points and such, not a bad time. And again, when we see these dumps, we like to look at these data points. We have a lot of excellent data points. You can see a lot of the trends with a lot of these coins currently. And obviously, October 10th is going to be a massive data point. So there's something to note here also, though. This is one thing that it doesn't make me extremely bullish when, again, when we're looking at the 1 month and we're looking at the trend, coins that went below that October 10th dump. Okay, so that is an excellent reference point. We want to see where they're at right now in comparison to then. So when I see them lower than that October 10th dump, so for example, October 10th, so it was at 250, it's currently at 208. To me, that's not necessarily a great sign if you're looking for a quick mover, right? In the long term, it's a good DCA price point if we look at it comparatively, but if you're looking for short-term plays, which is realistically, that's 100% where my focus is. I'm looking at short-term plays because I'm still eyeing the potential of this thing ending in the next 2 months. Okay, but when I see a data point like that, when it's lower than what it was, and this is the case for a lot of them, not the most appealing thing in the world. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's look at AVAX, for example. We go back on the 1 month. This is another one, kind of the same situation. Okay, well, it went down to $20.70 cents. It's currently at $16.76. Okay, so there's two ways to look at it. One is, again, if this is a long-term play for you, it's looking good. But if you're looking for short-term, like quick price action, that's not something necessarily you want to see, right? So again, AVAX is one that I was extremely bullish on, but it just doesn't get that adoption, which doesn't make any sense either, though, because again, it's one that has so much positive news. It just doesn't translate to price action, and that's kind of another part of the mindfuck of everything. Is that, is it because it's being suppressed, or is there something else going on, or is it just not going to be part of the broader pump? Okay, because again, realistically, a lot of these coins, especially a lot of these majors, I don't think they're going to hit previous all-time high, which again is one of the metrics that so many people focus on. I personally don't, right? You want to look at the overall market cap of the coin, what it was previously, and use that as a better comparison, especially coins that have a very high inflation rate, right? Which a lot of these do, especially a lot of these proof of stake coins, because previously, or even currently, those staking rewards are pretty freaking juicy, but at the end of the day, it affects you in the long term because it is going to have that higher inflation. Okay, AVAX being one of them, right? 8 to 9% returns. We held ours for like over 2 years. The returns were excellent in terms of AVAX, but again, it does affect the overall market cap, because if we're comparing that figure, okay, we're currently at right about 7 billion. The peak was about 30 billion. Okay, so a little over a 4x. If we look at it, But that doesn't mean, again, if we forex the current price of it, again, easy math, $16, it'd be $64 AVAX to match the previous all-time high in terms of market cap. Okay, but the overall price, when you look at it, was over 100 freaking bucks. It was $134. Okay, so for it to match that, it would have to double that previous all-time high market cap in order to do so. Okay, and this is the case with a lot, I'd probably say the majority of these proof of stake coins, right? Which is why, to me, like we've been harping all along, the better metric to focus on is the previous market cap. Okay, so that's going to give you a better indicator of where to go. You obviously want to exceed it. Some of the coins already have. Again, we point to coins like Solana. If we look at their all-time chart, right, this is the price, but when we look in terms of market cap, you can see the significant difference and why, to me, that's why I'm saying there's not a whole lot of upside necessarily with things like Sol. Probably the same thing with BNB. Let's look at it real quick. Obviously, price is at all-time high, so this is one of the few that has, and market cap is definitely way higher than what it was previously also. Okay, so to me, that's definitely one thing you want to factor in. So like when you see the $16 and you see what it was before, oh, it was 130, so 160 should be easy 10x. You gotta slow down with that, right? Because realistically, again, for it to 10x from here, it'd have to hit a $70 billion market cap, and that's with the previous all-time high being a little over 30. Okay, so for me, that is one of the best metrics you want to go. And obviously, the goal here would be to exceed that previous all-time market cap. Okay, then at that point, you can kind of guesstimate where you think you can go. That could be a potential price target, etc., etc. Okay, but for me, this is more what I'm looking at. So for me, a more realistic price point for AVAX be like 70, 80 bucks, right? And that's if things kind of go in our nature, right? So that's definitely not going to be the previous high, but again, it's because we're looking at the market cap, right? So just something you can point and use for any of these coins, okay? Not necessarily just specific to AVAX or any of these, because again, a lot of them early on, maybe the previous all-time high from like 2017 was a crazy price, but it's also most likely because there weren't that many coins in circulation, okay? So there's going to be different dynamics for different coins. There's going to be coins who this is their first bull market, and we're looking at different things. This is BitTensor Tau. This is another one that's extremely popular because it's one of the more truer actual AI coins, right? So depending on what this narrative does, is it going to continue to print? Because this is one that already has done well from the lows. Again, if we look at that April dip, which a lot of coins dipped in that April 6th to 8th time frame, it was down to 180 bucks, currently 478. Okay, even when we look momentarily, because again, when we look at the 1 month chart for this, in comparison to the others, it does look drastically different, right? When we're looking at price point, again, AVAX chart looked like this, the SUI chart looked like this. But this is something that's more appealing in a sense because this is one that obviously their 1 month chart looks drastically different. Okay, meaning what? Meaning it is getting that short-term price action. It is getting that hype. So does that necessarily mean to jump in now that it's at 480 bucks? No, but it's one that if it were to go low enough, right, it could be on the radar. Again, just a few days ago was significantly lower, was 397. Go back a little bit further, October 17th, 348. Or even better yet, during that October 10th dip, 278. Okay, so definitely interesting, right? These are coins that to me are ones I'm kind of looking at a little bit more, right? Another one that's popular is AVAX. And again, when we look at the 1 month chart, it's very similar to like AVAX, SUI, a lot of those other proof of stake coins where it's down significantly lower than even that October 10th dip. Again, it went down to 237. It's currently at $1.94, and again, it's going to be probably similar things to like AVAX when we're looking at the market caps and such, because this is another one that we did hold for quite a while, and same thing. I think the stake and rewards were like over 9% for this one, right? So this is one we did hold for quite a bit, and it's going to have the same issues. Okay, so when we look at the current market cap, 2.43 billion, previous high was around 10, so about a 4x, right? So if it hits $8, that'll reach the previous all-time market cap, but when we look at price, right, it's well over that. Okay, it's in the $17, $18 range. Again, it's high inflation. So if you want to look at, have a more realistic price expectation, again, just eyeballing it, I would put it at 10 to 12 bucks. Again, I'm conservative on my estimates. This is me personally. I'm not saying that that's what it's going to do. And no, you got to come up with your own metric, how you see things. Obviously, if things go parabolic, that changes things. That's just my viewpoint on it, right? Caspa is one that is also, well, this is a tricky one because it's not, right? So depending on the exchange you used, if we look at what's listed on here, they have it at about the same rate where it's at right now, 0.048. But as we all know, it went like under a penny. Some of us got lucky and got it around 2 cents. It's currently at 0.047. Currently, obviously not doing too well. We'll see where it ends up, but this is one, depending on your viewpoint, do you see it even in the short term recovering potentially to like the 6 cent range? Again, just a few days ago, it was right at 6 cents. So this is one that even Caspa's going to zero. If you think it'll retrace back to here, if things kind of go in our favor, that could be a 25% quick little profit. Or it's a good DCA point, obviously depending on where you're at. For me, this is not one I'm DCAing. I bought pretty decent amount during that dip, so I am more than happy there. Another one that looks drastically different on the 1 month chart, and this is one we did buy the dip, and this is one we did make a quick little flip on, and this is also just making me bullish when we see this. Again, on October 10th, it did dip down to 60 something cents. We did buy some at 70 something cents, and this is one we ran up to 2x. It did go up higher though, right? So I did just dump it all at a 2x, and it did actually go up to damn near $2. Okay, so this is one, if it would have held a little bit longer, would have been almost a 3x, but I'm more than happy with just literally a quick flip in a couple of days, right? So for me, a lot of that's been the play these past like few months, like literally these quick scalps where it's anywhere from 50%, 100% gain, where it's just a 2x, and just moving on, snowballing into the next one. It's been a lot of that, right? So this is why I like paying attention to these trends. I want to see which ones dip, how they react, which ones are popping, because if they do have significant dips, those are probably the coins I kind of want to be in, right? And a lot of these coins we mention a lot because it's just coins I follow pretty closely, and I'm pretty comfortable with their price action, okay? So like we mentioned, we posted it here when we bought it at 70 something cents, and we're pretty excited with even just this 25% gain, and it did go well beyond that, right? Once it hit that 2x threshold, we immediately sold, even though again, did go up significantly more, but again, that just gives us more cash to further our Degen plays, right? So for example, today, this is where a lot of the money's coming from, right? It's from these like quick scalps. It's all dependent on your strategy. I'm not saying it's something you should do, but again, if you're a person who's following all these coins closely, like the little moniker we keep saying is be bullish in the bull market, this is the time. This is a very special like 3-month window where this is kind of the sentiment. So for me, like a lot of people are asking, oh, should I buy this miner, this miner? I have zero interest in any hardware right now, whether it's GPUs for AI or anything like that, because we're making so much money off of these quick scalps these past few months. Like it is going to drastically outperform whatever's there. Whatever profits we have now, we can invest into whatever hardware we want after we profit take here, right? Which a lot of it is realized already, and it's just been, in a sense, kind of stupid, but it's been working extremely, extremely, extremely well, okay? So another one we're looking at, when we look at the 1 month chart, again, Arrow is another very popular one. It's another quick runner. Again, we're looking for these kinds of trends for just like quick flips potentially, right? So this is another one, went down to 79 cents. This is one we jumped into. It did go up. Not crazy, went up to 108. It's currently down to 87 cents. May kind of jump back in for another quick little flip, but again, we want to see these kind of deviations when we look back on the October 10th dip, right? Especially if we're looking for quick flips. Helium is another one, right? The October 10th dip went down to $2.10. Wasn't super appealing. It went down to like $1.78 though, right? Right under $1.80. That's when we're interested in, and then recovered pretty quickly to $2.50. Okay, so that's like a 40-something% gain. Again, even if it's a scalp, even if it's a quick thing, because again, if you're following that coin long-term wise, You can kind of see where trends are, where like good low prices are, right? So for me, like anything under $2 with helium, especially if it's significant, it's worth that quick scalp. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean a lot of these are long-term holds or doing whatever. Again, it's just these quick plays. Okay. Let's continue down the list. And again, we're going to look at the privacy coins. And again, this is why it's important to look at these trends. Like even like, I don't care, I'm not into that coin. Okay, just because you're not into Zcash or whatever other privacy coin, you want to look at it because you want to see where that capital is going to flow. Is it going to flow into some of the other coins? Is there opportunity with some of the others? These are the kinds of things you want to look at, right? Don't be so simple-minded and just look, oh, well, I'm not mining Zcash, so who cares? Look at what might potentially happen, right? Will it kind of give a whole narrative change, which is what happened here, right? It put a lot of emphasis on a lot of these privacy coins that have nothing to do with Zcash, right? In a sense, Zen is was previously closely aligned just because it was also previously mineable with those Equihash ASICs, which is what you use for Zcash. So Zen is one we're following for quite a long time. And again, that was actually one of the main reasons we wanted to get the Z15 Pro when it came out, was to stack as much Zen prior to the halving, right? Because at that point, that was kind of the goal initially with that. But all of that's irrelevant now because it is proof of stake, but it did have a nice little run. If we look at the 1 month chart from what it was, even at the beginning of the month where it was around $9, even at its current price, it's up. And this is the key thing, is that it's kind of holding, right? So it's giving more weight to that narrative. Beam has nothing to do with privacy. I don't know why it's here, but this is another one where we're referencing just looking at the price action, right? This is typically one we would buy just as a quick mover. This one does have like quick, like 10-20% variations. But again, when we're looking at this chart and we're looking for potential like short-term flip, when it's lower than that October 10th dip, which it was at 0.0057, it's currently at 0.043. Not super appealing. If you zoom in a little bit though, you can see it did go up about 20% or so in a pretty short time frame. So to each their own. Let's look at some of the next ones though. We are going out of order a little bit. Akash is another one to look into. This one in the D-pin space, the GPU factor, so kind of has the AI play in a sense. October 10th dip went down a little bit after, actually. This was a unique one. Some of the other ones did this also, where they went down initially with the market, but then they went down a little bit further a little bit after. Okay, so it went down to 71 cents. Did continue down further. Did have this pump up to like 89 cents, right? So if you bought it at 60 cents, it went up to 90 cents, it's a 50% gain in the matter of days. Similar opportunity right now. Is that going to happen again? Potentially. They did have some good news recently with their tokenomics. They are doing that like burning mechanism, kind of like that equilibrium factor similar to helium. So there is potential here even as a short-term flip. Let's continue on. This is another one we had talked about. And again, this is one that for whatever reason, whenever it pumps, it does these like crazy 50% wicks. So this is another one we follow. Like I get it. A lot of people aren't fans of it because of the whole mining aspect with the hardware. For me, that's been definitely a dud. Isn't one I'd recommend. It's been horrible there. As a project itself, though, I do like it. It is one that is on the leading edge of D-pin. It is making actual revenue. They actually do have real world partnerships. Again, the downfall here is the mining aspect, which if we're following token price, coin price, doesn't really matter, right? We're looking again just for straight profit. And when you see a coin go down to like previous, essentially all-time lows, again, even before the crazy pump, it was at like 10, 11 cents. For me, that's a good risk to reward, right? So when you're buying this thing in the 9 cent range and you have a 50% gain in the matter of a day, 100% dump the whole bag, right? With the anticipation, again, this is not the first time it's happened. If we track it over the past like 6 months, you can clearly see quite a few of them, and then you just take advantage, right? So this is one you can either, again, a quick flip, you can rebuy those same coins, or you can buy 50% more coins than what you initially had, or you can buy the same coins and use the rest of the capital to buy BTC or buy hard confidence play, whatever you want to do. But again, quick scalp opportunities, that's kind of what we're looking for. Right, and that's kind of one we mentioned here when it went up to 14 cents. That's when I dumped it all. and did rebuy some currently with this dip currently, right? And this is one where, again, you have to come up with your game plan and see what makes sense to you. Like one of the comments here, what is their use case? They have none and no real customers. Again, fully disagree with that. If you research the process, they actually do have a lot of real customers. They actually do have a lot of partnerships with enterprises. But even regardless, even aside from all that, in reality, the trades we're doing right now, it kind of doesn't even matter, right? When you see an opportunity where it's extremely high to kind of repeat, again, this is a similar trend we've seen, make that money, right? Or you can be like this guy and just lose everything, right? Just take advantage of what's in front of you guys. I get it. A lot of people don't like doing this, but again, this is the game you have to play if you want to succeed here. We're in an extremely unique 3-month period where I get it, a lot of people don't want to say it. Oh, we're not in a bull market. I completely disagree, right? We've seen so many coins do extreme multiples these past like 3 months, and they continue. Is it all coins though? Absolutely not, right? It's primarily certain coins, and this is why you want to be in the game. You want to be looking at different things if your goal is to make that money and take advantage of the market that's in front of you, right? Which is definitely 100% mine. And quite a few of you guys, right? I talked to a lot of you guys on the daily about different coins we're into, different trends we're looking at, and we're just jumping on them, quick flip, in and out, in and out, in and out, right? Well, the craziest one, though, without a freaking doubt, has been Zcash. Okay, so a lot of learning lessons here, just even aside from everything going on, look at their 1 month chart in comparison to all the others we looked at. Right? There's no better looking chart. There is nothing that has been stronger. There's nothing that has been looking up as good as Zcash, right? So again, even with the current dump right now, with everything going on, it's essentially unaffected, which is beyond crazy, right? Just because again, everything has been dumping extremely hard. Again, when we look at their 1 month chart in comparison to everybody else, drastically different. Okay, that October 10th dump, doesn't even look like a dump on here. Okay, we're actually just lower overall on the 7th, just because again, we're continuing to escalate, right? But it is ridiculous. It just a good reminder of how fast things can change. Like I get it, a lot of people are in the mindset that like, oh man, there's only like 6 to 8 weeks left. There's no way things can pump. This is a great example of they absolutely can, right? In the matter of weeks, you can get a freaking 10x. Okay, so just a reminder, not too long ago, this thing was under $50 all day. Okay, a 9x in literal weeks of just going up. Anything can happen. Does that mean that it's going to happen for all coins, other coins? Will it happen to other proof of work coins? I have no idea. Honestly, kind of doubt it, right? This thing has been on an extreme narrative from essentially every influential person in crypto. It's just crazy, right? This is pretty much on pace with any of the crazier runs we've seen this entire bull market. As a matter of fact, to me, it's kind of exceeding it. Just because it really did kind of come out of nowhere, right? But it's just a good reminder of what can happen, right? So when we see things like this, does that mean like, okay, it's a $410 now, I want to jump in? I'd be looking for more of a pullback. Are we going to get that pullback? Honestly, it doesn't seem like it, right? This is one we've been eyeing, we've been following, looking for a decent pullback to really get in. Haven't seen it. And it's hard to say how and where and when this thing can top out at, right? But what we do know is the higher this thing goes, the higher the risk factor is, right? So I get there's a lot of wanting to FOMO, like, it's going to go to 1,000. It's hard to say, right? Can we be close to the top? Maybe it peaks at 500. Maybe it already peaked. Maybe it goes to $2,000 here in the next, who freaking knows, right? At the end of the day, though, you want to look at these trends and kind of hop on board if you see a narrative that's pumping. And like one we did hop on, didn't buy much to really do anything though, just because again didn't really have much faith, but we did post about it when it hit $47, right? When we talked about that little pump, I was like, I'll buy 10 dash and see what it does. I wish would have gone in a little bit harder, but at the end of the day, it's still a decent profit. Even from this point, it's done a 2x. It's up to $87. And again, the similar thing here is looking at the strength. Okay, look at the 1 month chart in comparison to the others. And again, it's from that privacy narrative. Again, a lot of money is flowing here. Okay, is it going to sustain? Who knows? All I do know is when I see strength in something, I mean, it's one thing you kind of want to look at, right? You want to look at it, but again, you want to be in before the trend, or like even if you jump in after. Okay, like arguably, I didn't get in before the trend. I jumped in like a freaking newbie after it had already 2x'd. Okay, luckily it did do another 2x. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to look at the narrative. But for me, the kind of conviction was, or not necessarily conviction, but kind of the play was like, okay, I missed out on Zcash. We saw how Zcash is and how it continues. So we took the dive there. It is at a 2x. Am I going to hold much longer? I'm very tempted to just dump that 2x and again roll it into like a higher confidence play. Maybe I'll just do half of it, take out the initial, leave the initial there, see if it runs further and do that. That's probably the more likely play. But again, you want to look at these things, okay? Just because that's kind of been our thesis this whole time is that niches are going to all pump together at different times, and that could potentially be the bull market. Like this could potentially be kind of around the top 4 Zcash, okay? Even though maybe everything else is pumping, maybe there is a full rotation of capital from here to the next trend, right? Again, it's hard to say, and it's hard to say whether it's worth it. Like I've had some people ask, like, oh, should I get the D9 now? I would have zero interest in buying any hardware for it, even if it's available, just because, again, we don't know how long this pump's going to last. Okay, the people who make out here with these pumps are the people who have already held it, people who purchased it earlier, or people who've been mining Dash for these past few years, right? Arguably, this is the time to probably think about selling that hardware and probably de-risking at least a little bit, okay? Because it's also hard because even when, in the case of Zcash, right? This is one we had been bull posting since the beginning just because of how incredible of a run it was. But honestly, like I've mentioned before, I would have sold 100% of the bag well before it hit $400. Okay, like again, like I mentioned, probably at like 220 to 250, I almost 100% say that I would have dumped probably the whole bag, right? And it's done almost a 2x since then. Okay, so this is why, for me, this is definitely a learning lesson, a realization that if that narrative is hot enough, because we've seen like what happens, we've seen like who's talking about it, why they're talking about it, which if you're not familiar, it's the privacy narrative. A lot of the podcasts and stuff I've heard with a lot of the people who've been really shilling it hard, it's number one, to bring attention to privacy coins. Their reasoning kind of behind it, or why they think it's so attractive and why a lot of people are interested in it, is that it is bringing up the topic of privacy coins in general, right? The thought process is also is that if there's ever going to be a administration to actually pass regulation or legislation for privacy coins, it'd be the Trump administration. Okay, so there is that perspective. Another common question here is why not Monero? Why not XMR? The argument there has been the fact that Zcash privacy is optional versus XMR it's always. Okay, so pros and cons there, right? To me, arguably that makes XMR more bullish in a sense, but the argument there is also for the fact that because it's optional, Zcash can be listed on major exchanges. So for example, that's the reason that Zcash is on things even as strict as like Coinbase and XMR isn't. Okay, so there's a lot of other things also too though with Zcash. If you guys are familiar with Near, again, Near has so much great tech, it just doesn't necessarily translate to price action. But with Near Intense, they've been able to actually get Zcash on like a wrap version on Sol. So now you technically have a DEX for Zcash, right? Which is possible with Zcash, and it's been made possible because of Near. And that is extremely bullish, right? You can have a privacy coin that's fully decentralized and tradable on DEX, right? So that to me is also a big thing. So there's been, because of the popularity here, there's a lot of people doing hackathons and such specifically for Zcash for people to build and for people to just build on privacy in general, right? Let's continue down. Again, another one in the privacy sector, Pirate Chain R, which is another one that does have close ties because of the mining aspect with Equihash, with Zcash. It is actually also mineable with those like Z15s and such. There's another one that's been doing well. It's been following the hype cycle. Will it continue? To what extent? We don't know. But like privacy in some capacity has been getting moves all over the place, right? So some of them have been higher than others realistically 90-95% is all in Zcash, right? Most of these others, it's hard to tell if they're manufactured, if there's some interest in it, if they're just riding the hype wave, if it's speculators just kind of speculating. Either way though, it's money to be made. Okay, another one, even in the GPU world, has recently, it's just been realistically this past month, it was been with Ironfish, right? It had this slump where it was at like 12 cents for quite a while. It was essentially dead. You can even see it here in comparison to this whole past year, essentially, right? And realistically, again, it's just been this past month. So the weird thing here has been just the extreme price action, extreme price volatility, right? Ever since it's been on base, it's tradable on base. And again, it started in line with the Zcash pump. Okay, so again, it's a privacy coin. That's most likely why. It doesn't mean it's going to do a massive change from here. No, it's people just speculating. It could. There is definitely potential. It's a tiny market cap coin, which is why we've been having these crazy wicks. Okay, so this is one I have actively been trading. Soon as I see one of these pumps over 50 cents, dump 100% in the bag, and it's been re-dipping down to these price points continually. Okay, I've been able to 3x my bag by just doing that. How much it's going to continue, we don't know. Potentially on the next pump, if there's another pump, maybe that's the time to go. But to me, this is a good sign that it's continuing to show strength, even though during this dump, because to me, that kind of shows that there's at least interest there, right? The concern here would be is that if it retraced back down to this 12 cents, which is fully possible. Okay, but the fact that it hasn't, kind of telling me there is some potential. Again, will it just be one more wick and then people exit out completely? Potentially. Or does it something that continues upwards? Also potentially. Right? But it's been crazy because there has been wicks. It's not even prevalent on here because it didn't close at that price. But there was one day where it hit damn near $1. It went up to like 90-something cents. Okay, so again, if you bought it at 12 cents last month, it's almost an 8x in a single day and realistically in a matter of hours, right? But it has hit like this 40 to 50 cent range pretty frequently, right? This bigger one was at over 70 cents, which is crazy. And again, you can see the big retracements after. Okay, so again, it's all from that narrative. Will it, won't it? It's hard to say, right? But again, a lot of the plays here, for me at least, have been just these like flips. It's been so stupid. A lot of it started with the whole BNB thing. It started with Aster. That's one we were posting about when I was at 43 cents. And again, this is one that didn't feel good at the time because, again, it was a 400% pump, and that's when we decided to buy in, right? In some cases, that works out. Again, it was extreme hype. This was the beginning of that extreme BNB run, which is arguably probably just about over. This thing, again, we bought it at 40-something cents, and we sold at $2. Okay, so it was a quick 5x in a matter of a few days. It did go up well beyond that, though. Went up to almost $2.50. But as we see the current price now, it's back down to $1. Is it one that I have necessarily interest in? No. Is it one that to me is better than hype? No. Right? Initially, we're realistically just following that trend with BNB. And that's why I know a lot of people want to look at fundamentals, and this one's doing this. This is kind of not the time for that, right? Those are more for your long-term bags, high conviction bags. I get it, but for me, it's specific to short-term plays right now. That's definitely where the money's at. Okay, so then from here, you could degen, take your profits, roll it into BTC, or just continue the degen play. And this is why this has been extremely lucrative. We've just been kind of rolling the profits over and over again. Right? And not every single one's going to pan out. We've had some that were definite duds. We've had some that we got lucky that they did pump and come back. Well, again, because a lot of these were short-lived, especially these BNB plays. One off the top of my head was Lab. That's one I had bought on a pump, and it fucking went right down the shitter. And then out of nowhere, a few days ago, this massive wick. Again, we bought on one of the pumps over here. I think we bought at like 25 cents or something. It was right after this little retracement. And it went down the shitter, and it's been going. It did pump up a little bit and then been on a downtrend, but looked like we are going to take the L. Out of nowhere, pumped up to like, it was like 40-something cents. I think the closing wick was at 38 cents. It was like 40-something cents, right? So we ended up with almost a 2x out of nowhere, and it retraced right on back, right? So again, the whole crime season thing, again, a lot of it is luck, a lot of it's degenning, a lot of it's not going to play out. There's going to be some that go to zero, absolutely. This is why it's easier for me, though, to degen on plays that I think do have potential overall, right? Because then at that point, even if they do retrace, I have confidence that over the coming months, they'll kind of recoup. A lot of these plays, though, these BNB plays, were straight Degen plays. And we lucked out, right? So just something to consider, guys. Like, I get it. I get the sentiment, and I get, as I'm telling you, I get the freaking posts every day. Like, oh, why are you posting this? This is a, we're not in a bull market, whatever. Again, shout out to all you guys who've been doing it along with me. A lot of you guys, like, in there. We've been making money. Okay, again, you have to follow the narrative that's in front of you. This is something that's typical. Again, like we've mentioned over and over, this is a very special quarter where things like this happen. I have a much higher confidence in these things happening now versus any other time in this cycle. Again, so because of that's right in front of us, to me, that's where my focus is, and I have vastly outperformed what I would have done buying any form of hardware. Okay, with literally what started all was a $500 in Aster that turned into $2,000. And then that Caspa play out with that October 10th dip where we bought it at 2 cents, sold at 6 cents. That was a pretty significant play. So again, from all these little things, it snowballed into essentially $500 has turned into the equivalent of 2 L9s right now, right? Which is, again, vastly outperformed what I could have done with anything. Again, $500 gets you a little BTC piece of shit solo miner or a 5070, right? But we turned it into 2 L9s in the matter of like 6 weeks. Okay, so again, and it's not crazy plays either. We didn't put up a lot of capital. All of these plays, it's like literally 5 SOL worth, 1 or 2 BNB worth, and just flipping it. 50-cent profit, doubling, going out onto the next one, letting it snowball, snowball, snowball. Okay, so to each their own, but I know a lot of you guys ask about this and that, and this is why 100%, like we've been mentioning, this is the focus for this quarter, and this has been part of the plan from the beginning. You guys follow those portfolio videos. We literally set aside a nice stash of SOL, a nice stash of gains to specifically Degen, because this has been our plan all along for this quarter. Okay, so I get it. Broader wise, like if you're just holding everything, you're not doing anything, it's been extremely shitty because everything's been bleeding. But if you're active, there has been pluses to everything. Okay? And there's still things going on that lead me to believe that we still have potential here. Okay, so specifically, this is why a good timeline for me is like end of year. Okay, so there's a lot of big shows happening here at the beginning of December. A lot of other potential here happening in that time frame. Okay, so one big show, Binance Blockchain Week, which we know crime season's in full effect. Gonna have a lot of big speakers there. If there's any big announcements coming from Binance that could potentially pump things, it's gonna happen there. It's that first week of December. So it's December 3rd and 4th. A few days later, in the same region, Bitcoin Mina, December 8th and 9th. And then Seoul has their big show, Breakpoint, just a few days later in Abu Dhabi in that region also. So December 11th, 13th. Literally that 1 week. A lot of big news can come out, and that could potentially signal top things depending on the news we get, right? So we have that going on. We have more other bills coming. We do have the Crypto Clarity Act potentially coming down. Their goal time is December. If this article ever loads up, we'll go to the next one. Okay, there it goes. And they're trying to get this thing passed before Thanksgiving, right? Their goal is to get it done before the end of the year. Again, kind of following in that end of November, December time frame. Another thing that we kind of has to happen before anything moves, we got to get rid of this shutdown. This is hampering a lot of things. It's hampering a lot of the data coming in. It's hampering a lot of these other things going on, these ETF approvals, which turns out we didn't need them because some of the SOL ones did get approved. But again, as they come back up, things will happen there, and then we need the data coming from them. So this definitely is something that's going to affect things. Again, anytime there's uncertainty, does hamper the market regardless of how big of an effect it is. We do have potential Fed rate cuts coming in December also, right? December 10th is going to be that meeting. Currently, the odds of it happening is about 65%. Did go down significantly after Jerome Powell's commentary, just essentially saying that it's not guaranteed, but not saying that it's not going to happen. We have to look at the data. Unfortunately, right now, we may not get a lot of the data that they need to make the decision, though. So that's why there is uncertainty there. But if it does happen, especially if it's not priced in, because currently I don't think it's priced in, because a lot of people kind of lost faith in it happening. But this is one of those reasons that if it does happen when the market's not expecting it, that can cause the market to pump. Okay, so there are still definitely things to look forward to. Currently, this dump is already starting to retrace. We can see Bitcoin is approaching 107. So it's up to you guys, right? It's up to you if you want to risk it for the biscuit. This is definitely that time. If you still have conviction that there is still going to be room for things to run up, because again, as we look at all these other things running up and we look at crypto in general kind of not running along with it. So in reference to stocks, all-time high after all-time high, this gold run we had, to me, eventually it's going to trickle down to crypto. For me, arguably, it's been manipulated. To me, that's kind of the bigger thing. So I think it's going to happen. The mindfuck, like we mentioned in the beginning of the video, is the fact that we all think it's going to happen, but because of this price dump, these corrections, they're meant to psych you out to make you think we already did top, which is potentially viable. There still has to be a percentage chance that it has happened. It definitely is there. For me, it isn't though. For me, I'm still fully in. But understand when we have these dumps, specifically during these times, like I'm extremely surprised they haven't dumped it below like that 103, 104, right? A lot of people will get extremely bearish if we do. So luckily the bulls have been holding up to that point. But I wouldn't be surprised for that to happen, to psych people out, to convince people that we are in a freaking bear market, get people to sell. It's hard to say, bros. Again, a lot of this is the psychology thing, and they know it, right? The 4-year cycle isn't some mystery, isn't some unknown thing. A lot of people know it. A lot of people know the dates. A lot of people know different thresholds to look for, and they're going to be playing with your emotions, okay? They are going to try to psych you out. And again, there is the potential that this thing is over. There's a potential of all of that, okay? But understand that this is the time also when the most money is made, okay? So for me, this bag specifically of alts is a high degen play, okay? So I am willing to degen. I'm degenning all of it. I'm going in. So far, it's been extremely lucrative, and we're going to continue the play, okay? So whether or not we peak here in the next 2 months or it goes beyond, we're eyeing all these targets. We're looking at different things. Although if Bitcoin does have a massive run here in the next like 4 to 6 weeks, if we do break all-time high, if we do hit that 130, 140 range, and the alts start kind of pumping, I will probably be starting to take profits at that point, right? So we're definitely looking at the data. But again, if in 30, 45 days from now, we're still in these ranges, likely to continue on. Okay, but definitely something we are looking at, and a lot of people have been asking, like, oh, what do you think is going to happen a month from now? It's like, it's hard to even look forward like a week right now. There is so much going on. There's so much data to process. There's so many variables going on. It's really hard to look, right? At the end of the day, though, I'm definitely still targeting somewhere mid to end of December, and at that point, once things are invalidated, then we can kind of continue move on and look for the theory of the extended cycle. But until it happens, I'm still following it. To me, there is still potential that we do top before the end of this year. Okay, let me know in the comments, guys. I know this was a super long one, but this was kind of an important one to kind of like give you an entire picture of the market, where I'm seeing it, why I'm seeing it, what we're doing with it. And again, these type of videos aren't for everybody. But for those of you guys who have been following along and doing the damn thing, we're doing it, right? Let me know in the comments, though, guys. What do you guys think? What are you guys doing? Are you guys worried here? Are you guys dumped? There's no wrong or right answer here, right? It's definitely up to you where your conviction level is and how you're going to play this, because at the end of the day, it's your money. It's your wealth. It is your time to do the damn thing, right? But for me, again, we're still here. Let me know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'm out.